I love to cook at home, and having good kitchenware makes all the difference in the world. Not only does good equipment make prep and cooking easier, but it makes it more enjoyable. This is why I am a huge fan of Made In Cookware. Their wide range of cookware, from pots and pans to knives and flatware and even glassware, are designed to be professional quality for right in your home. I myself have over a dozen pieces from Made In, including pots, pans, pizza steel, knives, and a beer glass. Yeah, beer glassware. They have that all. Take your cooking to the next level by upgrading your cookware by going to unitedwedrink.com/madein. That's MADEIN. Find out why pros like Grant Achatz, Sean Brock, Nancy Silverton, and Eric Repair trust Made In. Go to unitedwedrink.com/madein and upgrade your kitchen and cooking today. The opinions and statements in this podcast do not represent those of the host's employers, coworkers, family, or imaginary friends. Now enjoy the show.
Happy hour? More like amateur hour. Welcome to United We Drink.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another new episode of the United We Drink podcast right here on unitedwedrink.com, as well as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, and wherever fine podcasts are found. My name is Mike Urevich, and our typical co-host, Kevin Abbott, will be joining us in just a minute because we have a guest on this episode. Yes, this is someone who I have wanted to have on for quite a long time, but I have been too lazy to go out and reach out to him and say, hey, dude, you want to come on the show? That's all my fault. Put it all on me. And we are having Eric Hild. He is the Senior Lead Brewer of Toppling Goliath out of Decorah, Iowa, coming on here. He is a fan of the show. He is a friend of the show. He is a friend of ours. And he is such an awesome dude. We've been following each other on Twitter for a while now and have some good conversations about beer, about music, about art, about TV, movies, gaming. He is just a dude who enjoys a lot of things that I enjoy. And it's really something that we should have done, like I said, a long time ago. So I'm not going to babble too much here. Let's get into the conversation that Kevin and I have with our friend Eric Hild from Toppling Goliath Brewing. Well, Kevin's here. Eric, thank you for joining us. It's been a long time coming to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me. Long time listener, first time caller.
And we are like the morning zoo of beer podcasts, I would like to say.
I have my soundboard all ready to go.
Nice.
Ooga.
Wacky sound effects,
Wow.
offensive things. It's going to be amazing.
So, although I would say that Aaron from Bitter Units is the most animal-like, so he
That's true.
I love you, Aaron.
We should also say that I have said that many of our podcasts are going to be amazing, and I have yet to been correct one time. So let's see if we can do the first one.
And that's why Joel left. Eric, what are you drinking here tonight?
I got a few things. So right now I got a New Glarus Staghorn Oktoberfest. It's my last one, unfortunately. Also, then in the reserve, got my own Toppling Goliath Oktoberfest as well, and then a little old Forester Bale Proof, which is a store select from a store in Prairie du Chien, Wisconsin called Stark Sports Shop.
Nice. Staghorn seems to be an internet darling Oktoberfest for those in Wisconsin.
Oh yeah, it's one of my personal favorites.
Did you take the trek up there to get it? Because they're still Wisconsin only, right?
Yep. Say for me, the Wisconsin border is only about an hour away, so
Oh,
it's a
okay.
quick little jaunt over. I'm actually good friends with the at least the barrel pick that for the whiskey I have, Alex Stark, who owns Stark's Board Shop, and I usually just get it from them.
Nice. Kevin, what are you imbibing in?
So first of all, I believe the Oktoberfest that you sent us, Eric, you did send Joel and I a
Yeah.
couple of those cans, right?
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I mentioned it on the podcast or I drank it on the podcast. I don't have a great memory, but it's an excellent beer. I really,
Thank
really
you.
enjoyed it. What I'm drinking tonight, I actually was in the mood for something dark, and I pulled out a 2019 Parade of Souls Imperial Stout, which is our
Ooh.
Barrel of Monks Imperial Stout. We will be releasing the new year. The 2022 will be coming out next week, I believe. And I just figured why not check out a 3-year-old version to see how it's tasting, and I'm pretty happy with it. It's still drinking really, really nice. It's got a lot more residual sweetness, a little bit less bitterness, and a little bit less of that roasty character. And the Belgian character comes out a little bit more as this beer ages, which is really cool.
So concludes the Barrel of Monks commercial for this episode. Thank you, Kevin.
There'll be at least 2 more.
That is true. I too was feeling like a dark beer. It's in the high 60s in South Florida right now. It was a beautiful day. It was low 70s, overcast. I couldn't have asked for a better day. So I am drinking Eric's Toppling Goliath Morning Delight. And this is a imperial stout with maple and coffee.
Yep.
It doesn't have an ABV on the label, but I think I looked it up. It's like around 15 or something.
Yeah, that's sounds about right.
I am splitting this bottle with my wife, and so I do not kill myself.
You don't want to drink a whole
Because
22 ounces?
This is, I've always been one of the people who's like, how can you not drink a 22-ounce beer? Like, it's 2 glasses. When people are like, I can't drink a bomber of that. I could absolutely drink the bomber of this. I would hate myself in the morning at best. I would hate myself at 1 a.m. when one of my kids inevitably wakes up and needs help. So it is a good thing that I am splitting this. It's fucking waffles and a cup of coffee in a glass, and I don't taste the booze at all. I also have a lemon spindrift, and I have a can of our Bees Squeeze. It's our Kolsch with local honey and local orange peel.
How dare you talk about a beer from your own brewery?
I know.
I'm shameless, Mike. Absolutely shameless.
The question is, what brewery is that? You have to give them a shout out.
Copper Point. Yeah. I'm not as good with the I guess ad reads for my brewery as Kevin is. I always have to write down the ad reads that I do before that I put in before the episodes. So, and those always take like 5 takes too, even though I'm reading from it.
You'll get there, Mike. You know,
I will.
15 more years of this podcast, and you'll get those down to 2 or 3 takes.
Between these 2 podcasts that you and I have done over our careers, I only have probably 8 to 10 years of experience of doing this, and I'm still going to get there some point.
You're a pup. You're a pup.
A fledgling.
So, Eric, we've been following each other for probably a couple years now, and you are. Remind me again of your title, your lead brewer.
Senior lead brewer. I mean, it's mostly just title wise and for how long I've been at the company now. But yeah, so it's senior lead brewer.
And how long have you been there?
5 years in September.
Wow.
Which I guess compared to some other people, it's not as long, but yeah.
And the brewery's what? Probably close to 10?
We're over 10. So we opened.
Oh, over 10.
So we opened in 2009. So I think it's 14 years now. I think 15 is next year.
Yeah, that's a lot older than I thought. And we'll get into talking about Toppling Goliath and your career there in just a bit. But how did you get into the beer industry? Where did you start out at, and all that fun stuff?
My origins is somewhat unconventional. Very beginning, I guess, in a way, at least how Toppling Goliath had an influence on myself was I went to school at Luther College in Decorah. It's the small D3 liberal arts school that's here. I graduated with a degree in art and a minor in management information systems. Not very beer oriented, but I graduated from or went to school from 2009 to 2013, which is when Toppling Goliath opened. So I've always been around TG, and it's for the most part, it's been my quote unquote hometown brewery for the most part, since I always kind of considered Decorah as like a second home. Graduated, bounced around for a few different jobs in the Des Moines, Ames area, so central Iowa. Was eventually trying to get into the printing industry since I had like a graphic design background with my art degree. That didn't end up not really working out well. The printing industry itself, I thought the foot in the door company that I was at didn't really have much growth. Didn't hate it, but it was just didn't really seem like there was much like upward momentum for me there. And one
When you
day,
say print, like sign printing shops, that type of thing,
they actually
or
they did everything from like embroidery to large signs. Some of the largest customers for that company was like John Deere. They made all the Iowa State football, all like athletic posters that went out, uh, like
okay.
chair and like catalogs and things like that as well. So they did
'Cause
all that, but
I've
yeah,
Yeah, I've noticed print businesses can be so different across the board. Like
mhm,
you have large format printers, you have small print shop like little Sir Speedy or whatever, fast signs, that
right.
type of stuff, as well. So was kind of curious about that.
No, yeah, it was.
Just
I mean,
from
it was interesting because I started off at the black and white printers. It was a lot of like you put inputs, everyone's like address and all that information on most of the already color printed stock. From there, we go to the folders or mailing department, depending on what the size of like what you were printing. Eventually, I moved up to making the color separation plates for the large like 4-color printers. So that would be like CMYK, large like
Mhm.
aluminum sheets that would print each color separation, and then if there was other like spot colors, it would do that, and then I would take them out to there. And I also learned like the HP, like the high end color printer as well while I was there.
Who do you guys use, Ball or Crown for your cans, or Arda?
I mean, we use bulk primarily, but we use a few different suppliers. So pretty much like during the whole aluminum shortage, like everyone else, we were scrambling just to find what we could and
Have
sign
you ever been
contracts
to one of
accordingly.
their printing facilities?
I haven't, no.
It's pretty cool. I
Yeah,
had
I
a
bet.
chance to go to the one in Tampa, the Ball facility in Tampa, one time for previous brewery, and got to see how it all works. And it's pretty crazy how big of operation it is, and what goes into forming the cans, and then the print that goes into it. It's
Hmm.
for someone who comes from a very similar background. I feel like it should be something you should do sometime for like a new label. Let them send
Yeah.
you over to see
No, I
the
definitely love to go see. I mean,
proof.
I still have like an affinity for at least printing. At least I always kind of find somewhat interesting now that I've like been in that industry for at least a short amount of time. So just like knowing the ins and outs of everything has always been at least fascinating for me.
Yeah, likewise.
I feel like you
But
guys are like two peas in a pod because you both are love, graphic design, and I mean, you guys could probably talk about this for the next 30 minutes, 40 minutes.
oh yeah,
Uh, it, Eric and I also have an eclectic taste in music, and he
yeah.
has talked about how it would be funny to have like a music and beer podcast, or an
Oh, I would love
episode
that.
of this show like that.
Cool.
Well, I always describe my musical taste as musical whiplash, where you go from like heavy metal to like Brazilian jazz to screamo, and it goes every which way.
So you were in printing, and that wasn't really going your direction.
Hmm.
So what happened next?
I mean, I had like an affinity for brewing to a certain extent. I feel like a lot of people who are just starting out, or at least have a modest interest in brewing, got like a Mr. Beer kit for Christmas at some point, and I enjoyed that to a certain extent. I was very awful 'cause I didn't really understand everything that was going on at the time. But I applied just for some entry level positions at some other breweries in Iowa before I got Toppling Goliath. So I applied at like Lion Bridge, which is in Cedar Rapids. They actually said they would hire me, but the pay at the time wasn't the same as what I was making at my current job, so I had to unfortunately decline. I also applied at Single Speed, which is in Waterloo. Uh, they never got back to me, unfortunately. But for Topping Goliath, I just saw on Facebook they just put a post out that was saying, "Hey, we need help in the cellar, cleaning tanks, kegs," and since I was already familiar with Decorah, I actually had family up there in as well, which is in Cresco, which is like 20 minutes away. My grandparents live there. I was like, sure, why not? I can move back to my college town. I love Decorah. It's a beautiful town that, if you've been to anywhere else in Iowa, it doesn't really feel like Iowa. It's very beautiful and scenic. So I'm like, sure, why not? Applied, um, interviewed, went up there because I actually interviewed. It was 2017 when the Morning Delight release was going on. So I went up there, interviewed, was able to get my Morning Delight release because I actually won the lottery that year for it. And shortly after that, they were like, within 2 weeks, they're like, "Hey, do you want to work here?" I'm like, "Sure." But I need like the 2 week notice that people kind of normally give for employers. And they're like, "All right, we'll see you in 2 weeks." So I kind of had to scramble to let my roommate at the time be like, "Hey, I'm gone in 2 weeks," and then also find an apartment in Decorah, which is actually a little bit more difficult than you'd expect. And so,
How far was the move?
uh, 100, it's about like a 2 hour drive, roughly.
Okay, that's pretty significant.
I think it's what, like 130-ish miles plus. I don't know. I usually go by time. It's so much easier.
No, much easier. Yeah.
And why aren't
But
you using the metric system, the
yeah.
kilometers? So Toppling Goliath is your first job in the industry.
Yeah.
A pretty good spot to start.
Yeah.
So everything I've learned has been like kind of on the fly learning. I know we always like to say we kind of like to do things a little bit different than a lot of other breweries. So just kind of learning what Toppling Goliath's like processes are for things. And then our executive brewmaster, Mike Sabo, I've just been kind of learning and like being like a sponge for all his knowledge that he has. Like if he doesn't, like if he talks about like what we're doing and I don't understand it, Google, Google University, and then also just studying things on my own time.
And that was when you started at the original brewery, right?
Yep. So beforehand, when I started, we had a 30-barrel brew house, and our tap room was kind of downtown. It was a pretty small building. And the 30-barrel brew house was like outside of town in a different facility. But I was there right when we were transitioning from that system to the 100-barrel. So I joined in September of 2017, and we began brewing at the new 100-barrel facility uh, about January of 2018.
Just a small step up from 30 barrels.
A little
A
different.
little step. I did not realize that you were brewing on a 100-barrel system. I find myself shocked very often at sometimes the small scale in which some breweries are at and the giant scales that others are at. I feel like that would be an actual fun little game, is to get a bunch of people on and hopefully people that don't know all this information on the back of their hand and guess what kind of systems people they're brewing on. I think you'd get some pretty wild guesses.
You'd actually be surprised. Like for all some like the larger brands, I'm always surprised of like how many barrels they're producing on like a smaller system.
Yeah.
Like before they opened up their Windsor brewery, Russian River was brewing on a 50-barrel system for a long, long time. And they were like, yeah, we're not upgrading. When they did upgrade their Santa Rosa brewery, they just got a brand new of another 50 barrel system from, I think it was a decommissioned Dogfish Head
Oh, jeez.
brew house, and they're like, yeah, we're not upgrading that, but and they were so and for how big that brewery has been perpetually as long as I've been in this industry, it was crazy to think that like it's only a 50 barrel system. Um, Now, when you guys were doing some transitioning, I know you were doing some contracting
Hmm.
through Brew Hub and Lakeland
Yep.
down this way. You're not, are you still using them?
No. So we,
No.
as soon as, well, pretty close to as soon as we started brewing in Decorah on the 100 barrel system, we ended our contract with Lakeland. There might have been some other like beers in there like throughout 2018, but at least for sure 2019 onwards, it's been strictly Decorah in
Okay.
Iowa.
Because I know also during that time we were having some of those beers distributed around here,
Mhm.
and this was well before I even knew you, and they weren't very good. Um,
Yeah.
But and I'm just being honest. Like
No,
this has been
fair.
a thing that has happened with some of the Brew Hub brands, contract brands
Hmm.
before. When Cigar City was using them for a bit, they had some issues with making High and it was like, okay, this doesn't taste right.
Hmm.
Um, and I guess that's a thing that happens when you're using contracts and the brewery is many states away from you.
Hmm.
It's a little hard to keep the QA QC going on that.
Exactly. I
Or when
mean,
they're right down the road
Yeah.
in Tampa. Tampa to Lakeland ain't a couple states away.
Yeah, that's true.
that was just one of those things
Sorry to step on
where
what you said, man.
you want like I mean, you want to have a pulse on it, but you're not gonna have like an individual there, like basically just overlooking them the entire time. That'd be ridiculous. You want to micromanage.
Hmm.
They should know what they're doing, but the processes are going to be slightly different. I know we're really particular making sure that from every stage of like from brewing to packaging that you're not doing any sort of like oxygen introduction or things like that, and making sure everything is going to be like a good product from start to finish.
Yeah. I mean, I've had pseudo and King Su like Iowa brewed before at like Hunapoo Day
Hmm.
and things like that, and they're delicious beers. And it was just I thought such a disservice to your beers and your brands when I remember a local place had King Su on draft, and it was like this is diacetyl bomb. Like this is not what this beer should be. And
Yeah,
that was probably back in like 2018.
sounds
Uh,
about right.
but I am happy for your brand that you guys have pulled in the reins and have complete control over the brewing of your beers, and your beers being like some of the most sought after beers in the American brewing world
Yeah.
today. I mean, I remember the first time I ever heard about you guys, Joel got a bottle of KBBS,
Oh shit,
and
nice.
he like I don't even remember how long ago, and it was a 12-ounce bottle, and he split it with some of us, and it was incredible. And I was like, "Who the fuck is this brewery?" But I mean, not long thereafter, it like if you didn't know who Toppling Goliath was, you were crazy because like Morning Delight and Assassin, and that like your stouts
Oh yeah.
were the thing that I think really put you guys on the map.
Yeah. I mean, it's been very humbling. Um, I mean, we don't. Our releases are a little bit run a little bit differently now, just because of COVID, and um, if anything, it's made us a little bit more efficient with releases. But some of like everything pre-COVID, I mean, I met people from like China, Belgium. I've met Olympians. Like I decently know some of like the gold medal winning Olympic bobsled team a little bit that came to the brewery. No, it's been it's crazy to see the reach that we have. It's awesome.
Do you know Warren Sapp?
I don't know.
'Cause Kevin does.
Are we just going to talk about celebrities we know? Is that where we're getting to?
Hey,
Yeah.
he's a big fan of your brewery, Kevin.
Well, sure. I'd happily take 100-barrel brew house kicking out some of the most sought after beers in the world over an NFL Hall of Famer knowing and liking our beer. So basically, Eric, you want to
That's a fair
switch?
trade.
Want to switch? Warren's a good guy.
I mean, I do kind of miss brewing on a smaller system.
So I do have a question about that because Mike is getting to the point that you started in a brewery that was, I'm not sure, and I am not really in the Uber beer geek culture really strong. I learn a lot of this stuff from Mike and from Joel and from Ralph, who's one of our brewers at Barrel of Monks. But I don't know what the timeline was for when Toppling Goliath really blew up, and whether you were there or you were there during that or before that. But your experience in working in a brewery that has that kind of cachet, that can put out beers and have people lining up for them and trading for them, is there... I just want to, and this might be something that you might want to speak to. You could always pass on this, but what's the culture like in your brewery? Is there a lot of, man, everything we do is great and we can do no wrong? Is there a, man, we've got to make everything absolutely incredible, we're our own worst critic? I'm just interested in that dynamic and how you look at the beers that you're putting out.
I mean, I will say there's a little bit of a little bit of kind of like the South Park, like smelling your own farts a little bit sometimes.
Okay. No, that's fair. I'm glad that you were
Yeah.
able to put that out there because we see a lot of that. There are some breweries like that in South Florida that definitely they have a reputation for being a little full of themselves. So I'm glad that you're
No.
honest enough to say that there can be a little bit of that going on.
There's a little bit of that, but I mean, I still honestly believe like some of the, like the stouts and everything that we're making are still like world class, and so we're very very self-critical about like the beers that we are making. I mean, we always have like a taste panel before everything, like everyone else does, to make sure right before it gets packaged that what you're putting out is good. And so we're trying to make sure that when we're putting out uh any of our beers, that we're trying to make it sure like, do we like this or not? Is this something we should actually put out to our customers? Is this world class beer? And so, I mean, I will admit there's been times where we haven't released world class beer, and it has been us in the ass. Um, and we will feel the full strength of our bosses, which we always like to claim is our customers, because ultimately they're the people who are going to be buying our beer. But it's, I mean, we always still try to we're always just trying to make it the best beer that we possibly can. If it's not up to our standards, then we'll see if we can fix it. If not, then we'll do something. We'll try to figure something else out.
Have you had to dump anything in your time there?
A couple times. I mean, it's very gut wrenching, especially trying to dump 100, 200 barrel batches down the drain. Is one of the unfortunate things having a 100-barrel brew house is everything is more in excess. So all those raw materials, all that work, and everything that gets put in is gone. But it is what it is.
It's the right thing to do for the product, for the customers.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to point out, I really appreciate an honest answer to the question that I asked, both of those, because it really is. There's so much. We had Kelly Meyer on here a couple weeks ago, and we were talking about the fact that every brewery talks about how everything they do is great and everything's always going incredibly well, and people don't like to talk about the things that are relatively negative in the business. And we do see a lot of that, and I've always been very confused. To me, dumping a beer, and I know you didn't say it happens all the time, like but you mentioned at least once, or twice where this has happened. That is quality control. That is showing your commitment to making good beer. That is not admitting defeat that you somehow did something wrong. Right? And sometimes we do. We have mistakes that happen, but I think people should take more time to let people understand that there are standards that we have in the industry and that we're looking at things critically and not just putting out everything and saying that everything we do is perfect in every way, shape, or form. So I appreciate that. I appreciate your candor. It's something that is refreshing to me.
I mean, beer's hard. There's so many things, like processes in making beer where something can go wrong. So I mean, what we like to say, I mean, if there is a mistake, it happened. There's nothing. I mean, you can try to like make excuses and things like that, but what's happened has happened. How do we move forward? How do we learn from it? What happened to cause why we had to dump a beer or X and Y? So it's more of like a learning experience that we at least try to like spin it on that at least.
I like to
Awesome.
think of the brewery as it is always trying to kill you and it is always trying to go bad. And it is up to us to make sure it doesn't kill us and that we don't let the beer go bad.
we okay, so in our locker room, we actually have like a whiteboard that kind of shows like what we have going on for the day. But our owner actually came in and like wrote like the 3 laws for making like world class beer. 1, don't fucking kill yourself. 2, don't fuck the beer up, and 3 is have fun.
Staying
I,
alive is probably the most critical.
Yeah.
So glad that that's number one.
I think it's really important to understand Mike's psyche when it comes to the beer industry right now when he says the brewery is always trying to kill you. There's something deep and psychological there that informs everything about his mentality.
CO2's natural state is it wants to kill you. Whether it's CO2 poisoning or pressurizing a tank.
Don't tell the conspiracy theorists that we don't need any more crazy ideas about CO2 trying to murder humans in the street. This just in, open a bottle of beer and sniff it, you're going to die. That's not what we need.
Get a little chloroform out of this?
Does it smell like chloroform? Yeah. Sweet. I'll see you later.
So Eric, I want to go back to something earlier, and I'm sure Mike had other questions, but because he took a sip, I'll jump in. I'm very interested. We've done many episodes that have touched on the IP theft aspect of things, and because you have graphic design and background, and you've had experience with this, what's your thoughts? I've always played the devil's advocate and said, as opposed to Joel and Mike, who basically want to draw and quarter anyone who does IP theft in the streets. Where do you stand on all that?
I mean, I hate to be a little bit of a fence like sitter, but generally, at least at Toppling Goliath, yeah. I mean, generally, Goliath, we try to not do any sort of like IP theft or not allude to it so much. I mean, that's kind of where Pseudo Sue came from. I mean, we used the likeness of Sue the dinosaur, and the Field Museum came at us with a lawsuit, and instead of um, actually like suing us, we worked out a deal to where some of the proceeds of Pseudo Sue and King Sue and other things that use the likeness of Sue in tangent with the dinosaur, they get a cut of that. But
I don't know what Sue the dinosaur is.
it is the largest complete skeleton of a Tyrannosaurus Rex. It usually presides at the Field Museum in Chicago.
Oh, okay.
So that's where the T-Rex on the Pseudo Sue and King Sue cans comes from.
Oh.
When your boys are
Today I learned.
4 or 5 and you're watching a lot of Dino Dana, you'll know that, Mike.
Or Dino Dan?
Either.
No,
my nephew watched both of those a lot.
But we actually got a cease and desist. We did a collaboration beer with Hot Butcher for the World in Chicago. We called it Hot Dog Time Machine, which is I guess a joke that we were all playing on with the movie Hot Tub Time Machine. But for instead of a hot tub, it's a hot dog. But But
I
the
love
picture
the face you made
is
as
like
it doesn't really make sense, but
it
that's
doesn't
what
make
we
sense, but it's
did.
just bullshitting. And they're in
Is
the
this
office one
landing? Is
day.
this landing?
But the image our designer came up with was the DeLorean from Back to the Future with the hot dog, the Oscar Mayer wiener like mobile attached to the top. And we were trying to like in contact with them, like, hey, let's like, can you like drive the Wienermobile up here for this, and like we can make it like a thing. And instead, they sent us a cease and desist, and they actually did like a drive by with the Wienermobile. They never stopped, but they did like a drive by of the brewery. It's like, yo, you better
Like
not.
scare you guys?
I guess it's like an intimidation tactic.
Like
There's a bunch of thugs and heavies that are gonna jump out of the Wienermobile,
Yeah.
probably in full Wiener costumes.
they're
It'd be
all
a shame if something
using the
happened to your nice
whistles.
brewery over here.
It'd be a shame if something happened.
But I mean, then actually shortly around that same time, we also released another beer called Ferrari Backpack, which was a collaboration we did with Lua, which is down in Des Moines. But like our executive brewmaster Mike, like his Facebook picture for the longest time has been him with like this red like Ferrari backpack. We're like, oh, we should do a beer about it. But I mean, we didn't use any Ferrari logo or anything like that. But I mean, it had the name in it. But surprisingly, they didn't send us a cease and desist. So I mean, looping back around, it's all situational. I generally don't think people should be doing it, especially for how blatant some people do it. But I mean, try to be more creative. Like if you want to do, I remember like it was like Joel or something like that saying earlier or something like that, but do like more of like a lyric or like a reference to a lyric or something like that rather than like just blatantly like here's the reference. Like be a little bit more creative with it. I mean, beer names are hard nowadays because everything under the sun's been taken, but I don't know, just make stuff up.
You could go super long like Burial
Yeah.
does. I actually like that. I like having long names. I know it's probably not great for the consumer who's trying to order a beer, but
It's also terrible for graphic design. It's so hard to get that on the front of a can or a bottle to have, prominence.
you don't always have to have the name be prominent. I mean, you look at today's can culture designs, it's more about art than it is the name of the beer in a lot of cases. That like they'll just put the name really small on the side with the ABV and all your legal stuff, and then just the artwork is what they want to put out there.
These crazy kids, I remember back in my day. Sorry, I just started yelling at a cloud again.
I mean, I wouldn't lie if say someone like the reference stuff like gets. I mean, yeah, of course people love it. It's nostalgia, it's familiarity, it's an easy grab. It's something to be like, I know what that is. I don't care what it is, but I'm gonna get it. So I mean, it's an easy way for people to like buy something, but in a way, it almost seems a little hollow at times. But
Yeah,
what are you gonna do?
Kevin and I used to do a wrestling podcast, and one of our least favorite things was when an old-time wrestler would come back for an episode of Raw or SmackDown just to pop a rating, and it was like using nostalgia for the sake of nostalgia isn't nostalgia. Like it isn't fun when it's just kind of forced at you. Like, hey, remember this? You like this? Buy
Pandering.
it.
Yeah.
It's pandering.
Yeah. I am absolutely a person who falls victim to some of this stuff, nostalgic stuff myself. I can openly admit that, but I do like stuff that is more subtle and not as just in your face. Like I really do believe you can make a reference to something without putting that something straight up on a label. And I wish that I could just pull an example out of my head right off the top of my head, but I can't because I didn't anticipate us actually talking about this. But it can be done. And for the last time for at least 2 months, it's not parody. You're not. What are you parodying? What are you bringing to light? If it's nothing, then it's not parody. And almost no brewery is really doing parody with their designs.
Irony and parody, two things that are rarely done correctly.
I think it would be ironic if we were all made out of iron. If anyone gets that reference, tweet at me. I will be very happy.
If anyone gets that reference, we'll have you on the show, because that's another soulmate for Mike, and he's got it's a good thing for us.
Don't put that out. If it's someone who I don't know, and isn't it like, don't.
This podcast, all we have in common is we know a reference to something.
To one of us does.
We'll make it work. Eric, I have another question. Mike, do you mind if I jump in and ask more questions?
Yeah, you're a co-host.
I know, but I didn't know if you had what you had planned, or if you're going through a list. I know we mostly just kind of free form, but I'm trying to be respectful.
List. Here's my list.
Eric, I've long had I mean, this isn't just a theory. I have a lot of friends in the brewing industry, shockingly enough, after being in it for 15 years. But it's my experience that brewers their favorite beers tend to be beers that the public, that's not their favorite beer, right? It tends to be the simpler beers, the lagers, the ESBs, the amber ales, things of that nature. Are you gonna shatter my expectations when you tell me what your favorite beer is that you make? Because I'm very interested in that.
Oh, that we make. Actually, right now it is our Oktoberfest.
Okay.
I mean, I'm also a little biased because I had a very big hand, at least when it came into production of that. Not just the scaling, but we actually have a 1-barrel pilot system, an SS Brewtech brew house that we use now. But we went through at least 4 or 5 different iterations on that system before we actually upscaled it to the 100-barrel. And I mean, I do like a majority of the brewing when it comes to our pilot system. So being able to actually get everything and doing that whole process, and then seeing which version that we all kind of collectively liked, and then eventually brewed, so I'm a little attached in that fashion. But it's just an easy drinking beer. I mean, I love IPAs and like the ones that we do. But when I go into the tap room and after a shift, I'm like, Oktoberfest. And if it's not that, because I don't actually know how much we have left for the tap room, it'll be our Pilsner that we do.
That goes right along with my theory. I feel very superior right now.
And when you were on bitter units, weren't you drinking a mild or something on that?
Maybe.
I feel like it was an English style.
Okay, if it was, it might have been. There is a English mild from Lionbridge, which is in Cedar Rapids, which rewinding back to when we were telling the story of, they actually potentially wanted to hire me way back when. They make one of their flagship beers is called Compensation. Used to be called Workman's Compensation, because like, hey, I'm on Workman's Compensation. Can I have a beer, please? It's an English mild, and it's one of my personal favorite beers. It's just easy drinking, like caramel malt. Like
maybe you had it on your Desert Island beers. I remember you. Yeah.
No, but it's one of my great. Anything that's like easy drinking, I can drink a bunch of it or not drink a bunch of it and still be okay. Wheelhouse.
People who like milds are good in my book.
Just across the board, do you really want to make that statement? That right now there's someone right now with 7 corpses in a freezer in their basement going, this guy said I'm pretty cool. This guy said I'm A-okay. And you're supporting that lifestyle, Mike. You have to watch it.
Oh, sweet. I'm going to get canceled on Twitter soon. I've somehow avoided it. Yeah, I mean, I think what Kevin said is pretty typical from at least the people that I know too. Yeah, the the lagers, the straightforward styles are what we tend to gravitate towards at the end of the day, and when we're sitting at home. Like I love something cool and wild. Like this morning delight was a really nice treat to have. It's not something that I typically will have stocked in my house, but like, and if I do, it will sit for a little bit because I wait for like a special occasion for it. Like I have you sent me about Pompeii is what it's called, right? The peach brandy barrel.
No, that is Peach Brandy Nutty Temple. Pompeii is
Oh, sorry.
our Mosaic IPA.
Oh, sorry. So yeah, you have that, and I'll probably save that for sometime during the holidays because you said that could kick my ass too.
Oh yeah, I mean, good thing you're not soloing the Morning Delight, but doing the Naughty Temple by yourself, that'll you will definitely feel that in the morning if you solo that by yourself.
But yeah, like I don't have much of a cellar anymore, but like I have a few bottles of odd breed beers that are like sitting for special occasions that are unspecified and stuff like that. But then other than that, like I have usually low fills of our Kolsch, our Pilsner, or our lager. And then I have some Negra Modelo in my fridge right now because I was like, yes, I want that.
Yeah.
And
So Eric, I just wanted to follow up because I had one extra question there.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
So you solidified my viewpoint, which is always good because now I feel self-satisfied. But now I want to know, what is the most ridiculous, over-the-top, crazy beer that you do that you think is just absolutely perfect?
Oh man. I mean, because we don't really do anything that crazy. I mean, in a world of the smoothie sours and smoothie seltzers and everything, where everyone's throwing God knows
Well,
what
just
into their mash tun.
let's just, and by the way, I appreciate you saying that, but let's just talk about like adjunct heavy, kind of stuff.
I mean, I think the best beer that we've actually ever made is we released it either early this year or late last year. We just did a double barrel assassin. But it was aged in bourbon barrels, and then we did it in peach brandy barrels, and it's fucking amazing. Like I mean, KBBS, SR71, all the other big names that we have are. I mean, I love them. They're great, but that double barrel assassin, it just has the right amount of like apple brandy notes. It's smooth, viscous, still has like that bourbon and barrel character to it while not being overpowering. It's like this chef's kiss.
Cool.
let me ask you this, putting you slightly on the hot seat.
Ooh.
Are these all the same stout recipe, or do you have different stout recipes for each one of those?
They are different. So we have a number of different stout bases that we at least either slightly change. Like I know, like can't say too much, but like some like have more like the Wehrman chocolate wheat. Some more have like chocolate rye. Kind of mixing things up different, like a little bit different. Throwing those bases into different barrels. But when it comes to what we're looking for particular brands, like when it comes to our barrel aged stuff, it's all about just barrel selection. So at least right now, COVID kind of pushed everything back a little bit further. But right now, a lot of our barrel statements are about 2 years. Beforehand, they're about one. But just because of that like hiccup year, everything kind of got pushed back. So we actually have a surplus of like 2 year age barrels or stout. But hmm?
Roundabout, how many barrels do you have?
Man, I could show you like a picture, but it's
Several.
a lot. I mean, I'm gonna lowball it, but probably like 300 plus.
Okay.
I know.
That sounds very impressive. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
No, but it's
I
Go ahead.
I'm terrible at gauging like a number when looking at stuff. Like you show me a crowd of people, I'm like, I don't know. It could be 5, it could be 500. I don't know how many people there
Well,
are
because
here.
like it's just we have a lug like narrow room that has like just a row column of barrels that are maybe like 5 high. I mean, they're doubled up, and they're like 2 to 3 like deep. So whatever that would be, a lot.
It must be fun to move stuff around.
Fortunately, I don't have to do it, at least right now. I might have to later. But I mean, we have a nice little was it forklift called an aisle master, which is like it's huge itself, but it basically can pivot 90 degrees like the fork itself and then pick everything out. So that's been extremely helpful.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, that was something that I wanted to ask right from not at the start, but I wanted to ask because you barrel age beers are your guys' forte,
Mhm.
and I was like, how many fucking barrels are in that place? It's got to be a lot. Like I've seen, I mean, not barrel aged stouts, but I've been to Rare Barrel and seen the amount of barrels in that place, and it was relatively insane there. But for all wild stuff. So I got to imagine what you got going on is just as crazy. And now knowing that it's in a small corridor makes me scared and claustrophobic thinking about it.
We actually have. I mean, we've. I don't know who actually makes them, but we actually have someone who we've. I don't know if contracted, but asked to make these special racks for us. Because you know the normal like barrel racks, they're like the like
Mhm.
prong things where they basically sit on top of the barrel and you just stack them on top of each other. So
Yeah.
we have are they're 4 bars, but what they do is they actually sit on top of like the actual like post themselves instead of actually resting on the barrel. So it actually doesn't allow them to
Oh.
like squish the barrel and actually have all this like physical stress on top of it. So it allows them to actually
Mm.
like breathe naturally without having that excess weight on top of them. So we can actually stack them a little bit higher than what you typically should for like barrels.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I'd love to see a picture of that.
Yeah, if you want to come to Iowa at some point,
Oh,
scenic, beautiful Iowa.
Bring the twins. You know, it'll be a blast, right, Mike?
yeah. You're not far from Minneapolis, right?
Like 3 hour drive. I mean, if anything,
Oh,
it's
it is.
go
Okay.
visit Minnesota and then just take a day trip down to us.
Okay. Because I gotta go see Tim.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, like I know that he's gone down your way to visit a number of times, so it made me think that it's not that far away.
Oh yeah. It's not. I mean, it's pretty nice driving. Once you go from Minneapolis to Rochester, it's pretty flat, but after Rochester, it's a pretty twisty drive, but it's really nice, and you can start getting into like bluff country.
Bluff Country. It's right next to Duff Country, right?
Exactly.
Um. So, how many barrels have you? How many barrels do you guys approximately make a year? I know that things have been weird, but like,
Mhm.
um, before COVID, like, what were you guys making, and what were you kind of like on track and anticipating making?
Before COVID, ugh, we were around I want to say 30,000.
Okay.
But during COVID, we actually, I mean, demand skyrocketed. I mean, we weren't kegging because bars were closed, so everything was packaged goods. But I mean, we also expanded at least our barrel, or not barrel, but like our tank capacity. So like now we're around the 40 to 50,000 barrel per year range.
Damn.
Wow.
Because right now we
I,
have 6 100s, 2 400s, and 9 200 barrel fermenters, as well as some 30s, 20s. We have 4 80 horizontals, and then some other smaller allotments for like that we used to own back in the day that we used for like barrel, like a lot of our barrel work.
and what's the plans for the future for Toppling Goliath? Like Is it just kind of trucking along, or are there plans for world domination?
I think with like a lot of uh fastly expanding breweries, um, I mean, we found ourselves. I mean, I'll be honest. We found ourselves in a little bit of a rut. I mean, right now we're in 32 states, 32-ish. But we don't. I mean, we don't have
Who's
salesmen.
the ish? Who's the ish?
Well, I mean, it depends. We don't have sales reps in every single state, and multiple reps cover multiple states. So some are kind of more like the tertiary states that like will send beer out occasionally. But
No, gotcha.
yeah,
I was thinking you'd say like Utah,
Utah.
or
I don't know. We have some. I mean, we have some weird like states you wouldn't think we should be in right away, like Arkansas, and I think we're in Wyoming. But it's been. I mean, we've stagnated. I don't want to say stagnate, but we plateaued a little bit more. Kind of like reel back a little bit, reassess where we're at, what we want to do, what we want to accomplish. Because I think right when we got to the 100 barrel system, it was expand, 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 get into a lot of markets. I mean, we could already satisfy our main tri-state area of Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Iowa. Um, and even then, we kind of even left Iowa by the wayside a little bit. I have to be honest and say that we did. It's kind of the unfortunate thing where like you're trying to look at the bigger picture, that where you can't. We're kind of almost kind of forget about home a little bit, which we are reassessing at this moment. But at least future plans for the brewery itself. We have the two 400s, but we found ourselves that we like 200 barrel fermenters a little bit more, a little bit more dynamic. Just because upscaling, like a single batch we make is 100 barrels. So um, if we're doing like collabs with someone, the smallest amount we can really do is 100 barrels. But we want to try to reach out as many people as we can, and so we have to move all this stuff around. Our 400 barrel fermenter is usually mostly used for our main core brands, so like Pseudo Sue and King Sue for the most part. But uh, future wise, like be like 5-10 year plan. I know we have aspirations to open a distillery at some point. I mean, because our barrel program is huge. A lot of the people at TG are also big whiskey nerds as well. And so if we can have like that almost like full control of that entire like ecosystem of being able to produce our own whiskey, which will then in turn reflect how we want to do our barrel profile for our barrel aging at some point. That's kind of what our uh, rocket ship into space kind of at least end goal is.
That's a pretty awesome aspiration. Yeah.
Mike, can I ask a personal question? Very similar, Eric, to what the plans are for the brewery. A lot of people in the industry want to get into different aspects of the industry. There are a lot of
Mhm.
brewers that want to get into other aspects of the beer industry, and there are some people that say, you'll pry my mash paddle out of my cold dead hands. What do you want to be doing in this industry in 10 years?
10 years. Ugh.
Okay, 25. Go ahead.
I don't know. It's hard to say. You always like to say, like, yeah, I like to stick with teaching the entire time. But I mean, there might be times where I might want to maybe try my own thing at some point. Truth be told, but the opportunities and things like that I have at TJ right now are awesome. I mean, now that I'm at least part of our innovations like team, I'm the main, or at least the primary brewer when it comes to our pilot system and things like that. Uh, I have a lot of like at least influence and over things like in that aspect that I enjoy. And if anything, I mean, there's always everyone's always feels like when it comes to growing in a brewery, it's always management. I'm not a huge people person. I don't really do well with conflict and things like that. But I do love brewing. It's despite some of the tribulations and things like that that comes with the industry and all the back and forth I always see like on the online discourse and all the other problems that kind of come with the industry that we're all kind of fighting right now. The industry itself, I really love. I love the physical aspect of it. I love brewing and being able to produce a product with my own hands that I can enjoy later. But then I also love the scientific and analytical side of it. That's where actually, if anything, at Toppling Goliath, my MIS management information system degree is really actually shined more than my art degree. Where a lot of what we do right now is on Excel spreadsheets and things of that sort. So it's a lot more like data analytics and things like that, which I do find like mentally stimulating, and then I also enjoy.
There's nothing I love more than a spreadsheet. And any person at our brewery will tell you the same. I've never met a spreadsheet that I did not create and send out and get angry notes on.
And not even on your formulas.
Why is this here? I don't need this. This is not helpful. But it's the way my brain processes information.
Almost like when you build a spreadsheet and then you have other people work it. I try to idiot proof it as much as possible, but it's like, this isn't working. And I'm like, oh, because blah, 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 fix it. And now it'll work, but it's a temporary band-aid. So sorry. Oops.
All right. Well, I think we're getting close to about an hour-ish here. Kevin, any other questions that you have for Eric before we ask him? Go ahead.
There's only one other question I had, and because you served it up to me, I'm gonna ask it. Is there any burnout? You've been in the industry for, you said, about 5 years now.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any beer burnout for you at all? Do you love it as much as you ever have? Do you sometimes go, my God, this is too much? Any of that?
Yes and no. Yes, in that, I've been burnout. During COVID, it was, and then like some of the residual things after that. I was pretty burnout for a while. We had a lot of, I'll be honest, we had some hiring issues, at least when it came to being adequately staffed for a brewery our size, where I'm salaried. So a lot of things were put on my shoulders, as well as many others at the brewery, to at least get through things. So even till it wasn't really until like the summer of this year that things got better, unfortunately. But beer wise, no, I still very enjoy it despite some of its like shortcomings and other like minor complaints I have. I still enjoy making beer. I still enjoy the science of it. It's, like I was saying earlier a little bit, just like the both aspects of the physical and the mental like stimulation and like learning and things like that. And I love beer where it's that you're always a student. You're always learning something new. There's always something to learn. You can think you think you're hot shit, but there's always something you could be learning, understanding better, and perfecting your craft.
100%.
Love that. That's great.
I think Joel used to say there's no level 100 brewer.
Mhm.
All right. So let's get into the questions. We actually forgot to ask this question on the last podcast.
I know. I like the
on.
little like insert at the end on the last one.
Mike's a genius.
Thank you, Kevin. I needed that one time someone telling me I'm a genius today. Glad that it's 9:30 here, but I'm glad that it finally came.
I'll do it again in 25 years.
All right. You have just had a big, successful barrel-aged bottle release. You had some pours of your big barrel-aged bottles, and you're hungry, and someone's giving you a ride home, and you see the bell, that glowing purplish, yellowish bell, and it's Taco Bell. You're pulling into the drive-thru. You don't quite understand the person who said, "Can I take your order?" But you have an order. What are you getting?
I'm gonna first preface that with, that's gonna be a long hike because Decorah does not have a Taco Bell.
Oh, really?
The closest one is probably either Rochester or La Crosse, Wisconsin, which is both about like an hour drive. So it's a big detour. But man, when a man wants Taco Bell, and he's gonna get his Taco Bell, my order is generally what is it? You get the Crunchwrap Supreme meal because you also get the free taco, and then I also get a quesarito with Baja Blast. If I don't want if I don't want soda, then I'll get unsweetened iced tea.
I'm gonna show myself as probably a villain to the beer world. I don't like Baja Blast.
I mean,
Never
it's
did.
just different ones from Taco Bell.
Well, it's only from Taco Bell, right? It's. I think it's a Taco Bell exclusive.
Well, it used to be. Now they have it in bottles. Now you can get it
Oh, they do?
convenience store.
Okay.
I don't know if it was like a one-time thing, but I remember they at least within the last couple of years they released it in like bottles.
Oh, okay.
And everything is different at 1 a.m. at a Taco Bell. Everything tastes better because you're not there for good reasons. You haven't made good life choices, and that choice now is amazing.
And actually, the next best choice after that would be to also run to Taco John's and get some potato olays.
I've never been to Taco John's. There isn't any around anywhere that I've lived.
Just slightly step up. They're fine, but they got tater tots in the shape of circles.
My limited knowledge of Taco John's is a documentary on Wesley Willis, where he walked into Taco John's headquarters and asked them if he could shout them out in one of his songs. If you don't know who Wesley Willis is, he was a fucking genius. Look him up. All right. So quesarito, that's one that you don't hear very often, and that's a good classic one.
And Crunchwrap Supreme, an absolute must.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Everyone's like actually on the taco pizza train. I always feel like, but actually, quesarito was also one of those brands that they got rid of with the taco pizza. I think they finally brought them both back not too long ago.
Oh, that was a chopping block one too?
Yeah, which I mean, it's just a quesadilla. You just make it, then you just wrap it up. It's just whatever their meat sauce, like squeeze tube stuff is, and then like sour cream and like cheese.
Yeah.
It's great.
All right. So then we will now roll into last calls, the point in the show where we give each other an unspecific amount of time to talk about whatever it is that we want, uninterrupted, unopposed, unobjected. So you know what this is all about, Eric.
Oh yeah.
I have your last call.
Man, what do we even want to talk about? There's so many things.
You didn't have anything planned? Jesus Christ.
I know, I should have. I guess actually, what is it? I'm just finishing building my next PC, which I'm super excited. There's some of the parts right there. Listeners can't see it, but they're right there. I just got my last the case in, so I will be building that tomorrow. But I guess best thing I can do is either give like a video game or a music recommendation. I'll do both. At least what I'm playing right now, I really like. There's a developer called New Blood, and they have a game called Gloomwood. If you like the old Thief games from back in the day, the more stealthy, I've been enjoying it quite a bit, and I would recommend it. It's in early access, so it's not fully complete right now, but it's very fun, at least in my opinion. And then music-wise, there's a lot of good music being released recently. Open Mike Eagle just released a new album, which is fantastic if you like rap. And one of my other favorite rappers, R.A.P. Ferreira, is releasing a new album. I think it's coming out soon in the next couple of weeks. Check him out.
Awesome. Kevin?
She-Hulk is incredible. It's a great show. It has one of the worst ratings on IMDb of any Marvel Cinematic Universe TV show, and it's mostly because of insecure men who get very uncomfortable when female superheroes are involved. It's a shame. The show is really, really good. And like any other franchise or any other TV show or anything else in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, there are problems. There are things that are not perfect. But the show is creative. The lead who plays Jen Walters is ridiculously likable and is watchable. I would watch her order Taco Bell. She is creative, charismatic to the nth degree. In fact, I am begging Marvel, give me a scene with Jen Walters, with Kate Bishop, with Yelena Belova, and Miss Marvel all in the same scene. Because each one of those characters is so likable and so charismatic that I believe the television would explode with all that charisma in front of them. And the last episode of She-Hulk in the series is just incredible fourth wall breaking brilliance. And I think it's a shame that it's getting such terrible reviews when it is just heads and tails better than so much of the content that goes out for Marvel. I mean, that compared to Thor: Love and Thunder, it's heads and tails better.
We're going to turn this into the Marvel podcast real quick. I also agree. She-Hulk is fantastic. You should go watch it. If anything, I want to see She-Hulk and Deadpool together just because the fourth wall breakings would be hilarious.
We're going to get that scene at some point. But
if they don't do it, it's a travesty.
Oh, yeah. With one of the team-up movies, they'll absolutely do it. But I appreciate that you're on the same team. Because there were moments in that series where I was like, I didn't like this. And there's too many super-powered humans out of nowhere that we've never heard of. And we haven't been introduced to mutants yet. So why are they doing that? But then I just enjoyed it. And that's the thing that's most important. I just enjoyed it. And some of the more superficial things that I would get frustrated with, I just said, well, screw it. I'm having fun.
Yeah.
This is supposed to be we don't talk about what our last calls are, but since it's already been broken, I'm only about, I think, 4 episodes in, and I'm really enjoying it. But we were introduced to mutants in Miss Marvel because she is a mutant.
But with one score that underlined the fact that she
I know,
had
but
a
I'm just
gene, and then they never talked, and since then they haven't said, oh, now we found 10,000 new mutants, so that all of a sudden we have like tons of cases that Jen Walters can take on. It's a little much, but you know what? Like I said, there is great TV that allows you to be so involved that you skip over the inconsistencies and just enjoy. And there is crappy TV and movies where you nitpick everything because it's not engaging. And She-Hulk is in the former. I think I did that right.
All right. So for my last call, back in June of 2002, my favorite band, Botch, broke up. Ended their time together, and so went to my opinion, the greatest math rock, mathcore, tech metal band of all time. And 2022 has been a whirlwind of Botch in our lives as fans of Botch. Their music went away from Spotify last year and revived itself by going to a different label as a dead band and coming back to Spotify. Then they released a song about 2 months ago, a brand new song after 20 years of being broken up and kind of saying, yeah, the reunion's never going to be a thing. the new song 122, an awesome song, a song that definitely sounds like where these musicians would have transitioned themselves into at this time. And then just today, they announced 2 shows in February of 2023 in Seattle, and I so wish that I could go to that, either one of those. But I am old and brittle and a father now and have way more responsibility than to just go out to Seattle for a hardcore show. But I also forgot that they just played a surprise show last weekend for their former producer's birthday. I am so fucking stoked that Botch is coming back into my life, to other fans' lives, that people of metal and hardcore are newly discovering the beauty that is Botch. And I hope that people who go to the show in Seattle in February have a fucking black video of it. If they go on tour and they come close to Florida, I will definitely make an effort to go to one of those shows. But holy fuck, am I so stoked that all of this stuff has happened in the last few months for this band that I consider my favorite band of all time. All right. So let's get some plugs out of the way. Eric, what do you want to plug?
If you want to follow Toppling Goliath, I believe we are TG Brews, TGBREWS on Twitter, and I think it's Toppling Brews on Instagram. We had like a hack like a year or two ago where we had to reset our entire account and everything, which was a whole fiasco, but I believe that's what it is. If you want to follow
Someone
me,
clicked on the link in the email, huh?
yeah. If anything, I was disappointed because the hacker didn't do anything like crazy. It was just like a weird like, hey, it's Instagram ads as opposed to just like, I don't know, porn or something. So I was kind of disappointed with that. But if you want to follow me, I am King of the Hild, Hild, on pretty much most social media platforms, mostly Twitter, Instagram.
Awesome. Kevin, next Barrel of Monks commercial.
Don't drink any Barrel of Monks beer. They're very mediocre and you won't enjoy them. But if you want to hear us talk about great beers, follow us on Instagram and on Facebook at barrelofmonks.com. Every Friday we talk about another great beer. We call it Old Favorite Friday. And every Old Favorite Friday we feature an incredible classic beer of a great classic style and talk about how amazing it is. And we talk about Oktoberfest, we talk about pale ales, IPAs, and they're normally widely available beers that people have forgotten how incredible they are because they're so widely available. And I love promoting those kind of beers and those kind of styles because they're the things that I love the most. And that's why we do it at Barrel of Monks.
Awesome.
I was just kidding, by the way. Barrel of Monks beers are great. Go ahead, Mike.
I was going to agree with you on the first part. It's a Yelp review, and it's printed out and framed on the wall.
Nice, good old-fashioned Untapped review. 3.25 stars.
Best beer I have ever had. 2 stars. If you want to follow me, I am at Mike Loves Beer on Twitter and Instagram. And if you want to follow the show, we are at United We Drink on Twitter, at United We Drink Pod on Instagram. We're on Facebook as well. Don't use it a terrible lot, but hey, it's there. I want to thank you so much, Eric, for being on the show. Like I said, it was a long time coming. This is something that should have happened a lot sooner. You've been an awesome fan of the show and become a friend of the show and a friend of ours. I really appreciate the time. I appreciate you just sending me a box of beer. The amount of people who have sent me beer over the last few months, I'm so sorry I haven't gotten back to anyone, but it's just, there's been a lot going on, and I want to get you and Joe Plouffe from Hanging Hills sent me beer, and I know that there's someone else who I'm forgetting. Tim sent me beer last year, and I did get him back. Tommy Kelly from Free State Brewing sent me beer. I need to get him back too. So, and I don't have an expense account that I can write that stuff off on. So shipping's expensive. But I will get you guys. I swear.
It's all good.
Give me some beer, Mike, from Copper Point. We'll throw some Barrel of Monk stuff in there, and I'll send it out.
Okay.
I want to thank you to Kevin and Joel for sending me beer. They were all.
Oh, did you get the box?
Right, I did. Yeah, Devil's Decadent was fantastic, and I haven't had the other Wild Ales yet, but I am excited for them.
Awesome. I was really happy with the Devil's Decadence. Very good job, Kevin.
Thank you. I did nothing.
And Joel and Ralph and Ben.
Ralph, they did the work, and they deserve the credit.
Yes. Dude, yeah. Thank you again for coming on, and we will. And by we, I mean I will see you on Twitter. Kevin doesn't do social, so you'll never see or hear from him again.
I will see you in a year or so when we have you on again.
Sounds good. Hey, if you know what, Christmas special.
Yeah, that's right. We got to get into planning that soon. Tim, I'll be in touch. Another big thanks to Eric for joining us. If you want to follow the show on social media, I said those already, but I'm going to do it again because that's what I usually do at this point of the outro. You can follow us on Twitter at United We Drink. We're at United We Drink Pod on Instagram. Our show is available on all of the major podcast services: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, anywhere, really. If you find an app that plays podcasts that you like and you can't find our show on it, let me know. I will get us on there for fucking sure. If you want to support the show, check out some of the brands that we love over on our website, UnitedWeDrink.com. If you use those links and purchase something like through Liquid Death or Made In or Athletic Brewing or the American Homebrewers Association, some of that goes towards helping this show. And we use that just to pay for our hosting fees. And if you want to support other ways, we have our store, UnitedWeDrink.com/store, where there's shirts, buttons, stickers. I know I said it on the last episode, but if you buy something, let us know. Shoot us a tweet or a DM or something. We'd just really like to say thank you. We get notifications when there are sales, but we don't see who actually buys anything. So it would be a great way to be able to say thank you for helping support the show. We'll be back in a couple weeks with a brand new episode. Thank you, everyone, once again. Thank you, Eric. And we'll see you then. Cheers.
All by myself in the morning, all by myself in the night. I sit alone with a table and a chair, so unhappy, so unhappy, so